Hey everyone, welcome to the closing Q&A. If you can take some seats, and actually, if you don't mind, if you could move up closer to the front. I know it's a smaller crowd than it was at 9 a.m. this morning. 9 to 6 is a good marathon, so I really appreciate all of you sticking around. The other reason is I wanted to make this more of a conversation, really with us as a community. I'm sure there's questions you guys have of me, of Hyperledger, of that sort of thing, but I want to get your take on things that you've learned over the last few days, and things that you think we could do better in terms of how we host this event and in the Hyperledger community in general. Let's see, a couple of things that people mentioned to me might be nice to highlight. So the Hyperledger India community has been super active over the last 6 months. Part of that is we hosted formed a regional chapter actually in India of all the different meetup communities that has had a lot of active involvement. And I think is Arun still here? From Walmart Labs. Arun has been one of the anchors of that. And they recently hosted a hackathon last week where they had something like 16, 17 teams show up across a bunch of different locations in India, and some interesting stuff came out of that. So we are real excited. If we could do this event in India next week, I bet we'd have just as many people and just as much energy and enthusiasm there, perhaps more, because it's really growing out there very quickly. Our sponsors, I hope many of you had a chance to check them out and hear about some of the news. Kaleido, I just wanted to mention real quick, announced that they've achieved something called ISO 27001 certification for their platform. They'll be making a more formal announcement tomorrow, but you heard it here first, which means they can be used in a lot of different really high security and regulated kind of circumstances. So congratulations to Kaleido for that. Yeah. And then we had somebody join us earlier this morning. Her name is Leanne Kemp. Is Leanne here anywhere? Okay, I asked if she could join. Maybe she'll join us kind of later on, but she gave a great talk at the last Hyperledger Global Forum on Everledger and the traceable supply chain systems they've built on Hyperledger Fabric for the diamond industry, colored gemstones, wine, all sorts of interesting spaces they're going into now. So if she does show up, I asked her if she could give a real quick kind of update on where they're at, because they are moving very quickly. So with that, this has been, I think, for us as Hyperledger staff, a whole lot of work to try to bring all sorts of members of our community together. Not only all the different technology projects and the special interest groups, but people from lots of different communities. And we hope that showed. We hope we didn't, aim too much of a fire hose at you in terms of content. But for us, this was a good way for us to motivate our community towards, talking about itself and putting its thoughts and actions and such into kind of consumable bites. We certainly hope that the content also has a second life after this event. We will be putting all the videos up, of course, but also, will serve as the basis for blog posts, for talks that might get submitted at other events. We get a lot of requests, by the way, to have Hyperledger, quote unquote, show up at this conference, that conference, etc. And I am happy to travel, perhaps less happy than average or usual, but I'm always also very happy to relay that request to other people in the community to really tell, you're better at telling your stories than I am. So what I'm hoping comes out of this is this event is this real corpus of content and ideas and knowledge. And so thank you to all the speakers who've been able to put that all together. Because there are over 80 of you, over 100 of the speakers who showed up, and let's do kind of a round of applause for the speakers. And let's see, before diving into kind of the Q&A, and we have a microphone there and a microphone there, so if you do have questions and you want to get in a queue and start lining up to ask them, feel free. But I just want to mention, right after this, there are buses that will take us to the evening event. It'll just involve going out this door, and there'll be people to show you the way, but across the pedestrian bridge to the north side or east side of the hall, and then downstairs to get into the buses. So with that, who has the first question? Great, and could you stand up and go to the microphone right over there? Just the one, halfway down the aisle. Yeah, and say your name.
Hi, Brian, and everyone. My name is Vikas. I traveled from Saudi Arabia. I'm working with Ministry of Tourism, Saudi Arabia. First of all, I would like to pay a sincere gratitude to your team, to Linux Foundation for organizing a wonderful event, and to your partners, and of course to the speakers as well. But I would like to also highlight one thing that I feel is missing. There is, government's blockchains are not discussed. And that was my main motivation to visit this conference and to learn more about how other governments are doing in many different use cases that could be done, not only in terms of a central bank cryptocurrency or tokenization or these things, but there are other several use cases that may be discussed, or I don't know whether you don't receive any submissions for the speakers, but I think that that should be the main, should be focused in next upcoming events for the Hyperledger.
Thanks for the feedback.
Thank you.
Oh, great. So we did try very hard to find some keynote speakers from some of the government agencies in the United States that we know are pursuing blockchain technology. And you should join, if you're not a part of it yet, the public sector work special interest group, because that's where there's a lot of presentations and conversation about kind of government use cases and that sort of thing. I'd also wager that any reasonably mature open source blockchain network is probably going to have regulators involved in it, probably have a public sector component to what it does. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for that. And if there's more outreach we could have done, we're all ears for next time. Yeah. Any other questions? What did people learn here? What did people find that they I hope all of you took my advice and attended at least three sessions around content that they hadn't heard about before. Anyone want to kind of share something that was novel or distinct? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, this is Laszlo speaking. And first of all, thank you for organizing and putting this event together, everyone who involved, and including staff and sponsors. I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot, actually. Two things I like to highlight, what's my takeaway will be. One is that we are still in a kind of early phase. And I see that many companies, enterprises running projects which are leaving the pilot phase and being a production, but still in a controlled environment, which is good to see. Scalability is still an issue, as I can hear from many presenters and many people. So there's a couple of key takeaways for me, for sure, and I really enjoyed every presentation I participated in. One question, my personal question to you is coming from my experience taking the Hyperledger Fabric System Administrator course, and I found some challenges with the instructions and study material. And I reached out to the community and the forum, and it was echoed back multiple times that there is some disconnection between the material and what's being taught. And I know it's a lot of effort to develop a course and keep it up to date. And just want to emphasize that people who want to learn and go deeper might need some more support.
Thank you for that. Yeah, no, for those of you who might not know, so we have training programs that also can be delivered by many of our training partners around administrators for administration techniques for Hyperledger Fabric and for Sawtooth, as well as now this recently launched one for developers. And then we have timed proctored exams that go along with those, right, in order to get the certification that you need. These are actually rather hard to develop. Anyone who's developed courseware knows that you have to be even much more expert at the content than the people you're testing, and probably no more than the average developer on those, contributor to those underlying projects. So that's the kind of content though that we think is necessary to fund and get out there. All of that, all the content is under a Creative Commons license, so people who deliver courses can remix it. And we hope, and we do get quite a bit of feedback on those, and we do update them on a yearly basis to address those, or even more frequent if we see that there's major issues with them. So please look at them as an open source project of their own, and we're always interested in improving those. And I should have mentioned this morning as well, I don't know if I did, there was another new course published on the training community called, on the training, Linux Foundation training platform called Developing Blockchain Identity Projects. I'm sure I got the title wrong, but it's intended to cover Indy and Aries and Ursa for developers, like how do you get bootstrapped with this. Both that and the Fabric developer exams are brand new. We probably got some things wrong or some ways that it could be improved, so please go through the course, let us know if there's something that could be improved about them. They are tough exams though. We want to make sure they're correct, but you know, the pass rate, you know, is not 90%. It's a lot less than that, and I think that's appropriate, you know, to make sure that they're actually meaningful exams. So, but thank you for that comment. Yes.
Hi, my name is Christopher Sebastian, and thank you for having this this forum in Phoenix. I'm from Phoenix, and I think I'm the only person that I've met from Phoenix. Is there anyone else here from Phoenix? Can I see anyone? Anyone?
Yeah, one. I've met a few others. They're
okay. Well,
yeah.
Well, thanks for having it here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to come here. So thanks everybody for flying in. But seriously, to answer your question about what's something that I learned here, there was a presentation from one of the companies here called Trust Your Supplier. Mm-hmm. And it was a very, very good presentation that they had. And the kind of like the epiphany, because I'm not as smart as all you guys, but the epiphany that I had was that is such an intuitive and simple name for a product, and it kind of, in just 3 words, encompasses what blockchain is all about. It encompasses the core feature of blockchain that we're all trying to achieve, and that is trust. It says trust your supplier, and you can replace supplier with whatever you want. You say trust your doctor, trust your dog, trust your child. I don't know, whatever. It's like you guys can fill in that blank,
right? And
you can find new applications for blockchain and solve problems that deal with trust. And so for me, that was like a very simple but powerful takeaway. So thank you, Brian.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's great. No, that is, I mean, trust is at the heart of why we work on any of these initiatives, right? Why you use this rather than a central database. Great. Any other, oh, great. Go for it.
So Brian, I want to echo what other people have said. It's an awesome conference. Great job. Thank you for that. Now let's attack you and tell you what has to be different. So from my point of view, the problem with this is I was in Basel, and this wasn't a 12-month window. It was a little longer than that. And so the deal is, I can tell you, the articles you read in the industry about is this year the blockchain, we're long past those. Nobody should ever write another one of those. So given that blockchain has already taken off, this conference and what Hyperledger is doing are actually getting more important every year. And so what that means is sort of how you deliver this has to change a little bit, I think. So the concept of, like the guy in Phoenix said, well, he came because it's here. The problem I think you're going to have is this global forum needs to be more than one location every year. Hate to put that on you, but it really should be duplicated a couple of places to get what you need. The second thing I'll say is we had great presentations here, many of them, and the quality was awesome across the board. I'll pick one out in particular. I love the one on practical issues in enterprise blockchain. That was really well done. It was so good that I actually have to do a presentation. I told the speaker I was going to steal everything he did, and he was gracious enough to say, sure, go ahead. But the format he did, it was awesome. So it was all, here's a problem, here's some optional solutions, what do you think, how do you go forward with it? So it was a great model for how to deliver engineering stuff. The last point is I also agree very much. I would love to see more sessions, and if I said fill them out, I'm going to ask to say, let's look at use cases. So whether it's not just public sector, but many of them, I'd say we have a tremendous inventory that's growing all the time of solutions that are out in the real world. It's like you brought in the case of public sector, Verified Me, awesome. But there are so many more that now, if I said, let's look next year at this conference, there would be more than just one or two in each of the industry sectors, and it would be nice to see more of that. Last point I'll make is that Hyperledger is beyond the global forum. David Boswell runs the organization with all the meetups, and I'm the Boston Hyperledger meetup chair. So 2 quick points there. March 19th, if anybody can get to Boston, Cambridge, at Harvard University Business School is going to host a meetup for us, and we're actually having Gary Singh, the IBM blockchain CTO. He's going to spend the evening with you, and I promise I won't let him go home until all your questions are answered if you show up. So that's one thing. But definitely take advantage of the Hyperledger meetups that are all around the globe and try to use that as a vehicle to get a lot of these questions answered, because most of us can't afford to wait for 12 months for what it's worth. So thank you very much, Brian.
And in fact, let me double down on that meetups kind of call, which is, I mean, some of you are local, some of you are in the Bay Area, Boston. A lot of you from a lot of different far-flung places. There were 2 of you from Azerbaijan here, which I got to meet, which was great. Please, if you believe in what we're doing here, if you believe in the technology, consider being a part of the meetup community in your city. And if there isn't one, consider starting it. The meetups are a chance for, to do kind of like what we're doing here at Hyperledger Global Forum, but in microcosm and on a regular basis, right? The best meetups that I've been to are the ones that have 2 presentations, a mix of technology and business, some pizza, that sort of thing. We can provide a lot of support for hosting your own meetups, and David Boswell is sitting right over there, oversees that program. But this is a way to really grow the community, because it is really hard to have a meeting like this in 100 different places once a year, right? So, but that meetup community is really strong. And then secondly, this is an experiment. This event Basel was an experiment in time, an experiment in location. We haven't, unlike many conferences, said we're going to be in the same city for 10 years, which allows them to kind of develop a heartbeat. And a lot of the news recently, I mean, we've seen a lot of events being canceled right now because of the recent news or postponed. And so we're going to take this back and talk amongst ourselves on the governing board and in the community about what's the next iteration of this. And there are a lot of options out there. And from doing this event again in another city, we did it last in Europe, now in America, maybe we'll do it in Asia next year, but also perhaps fanning out and partnering with other conferences, maybe doing something that can bring this closer to people, and still that kind of gathering the minds, gathering the different projects, gathering the different, noteworthy people in our community. That's in essence, that's the essence of this conference. So we have to figure out how do we make all that kind of work. But we're very open to how this evolves, rather than just being a routine kind of thing every year. Yes, next to the mic.
Hello, thank you very much for everything.
And
I
could
loved
you
it.
introduce yourself?
Mark from Public Works Government Services Canada. And about the talk about regulators, I find, my boss said, let's go and explore what blockchain's doing. We've done some proof of concepts. And as a community, now we have to start reaching out to these regulators to make sure things are going to change, because regulators have a hard time just dealing with their day-to-day job. And then we're dealing with blockchain, which implies that you're going to have to change laws, policies. Well, these things have been written forever, so don't think that you're going to change. In Canada, we have a native law, and blockchain, you can't erase things as you want. So, and I'm not saying we're hiding things from the public, but you have to change the policies around how you can provide the data to the users. And how long are you going to take it? Well, you can't just change the policy in a day, right? So it's food for thought for everybody, but we have to start reaching out to them. If you want to have more presence of government, I think it starts from us, and show them that there's a community, we're working together, and bring them use cases that can benefit their businesses and whatever we're doing.
Thanks. And you know, we've always felt like reaching out to government agencies was part of what we had to do, like overtly. Even though our membership structure is mostly companies, we have it as associate members, government agencies of all sorts, from the CFTC to the state of Maharashtra in India, and the IT division there, to lots of different states. So would love to continue to explore with Canada. Are there groups that we should be working with there? But that's an important part. Okay, I'll take one more question. So why don't we go with you?
Great. Thanks. My name is Truman Desmond. I'm with OpenIDL, also the American Association of Insurance Services. One of the things I learned here over the last couple of days was the special interest groups and how to get more involved in them. And one of the things that struck, just also hearing the conversation today, as well as many other blockchain conferences and conversations that relate to regulators, has certainly come up here. As the public sector special interest group that we're looking forward to getting more deeply involved into, as that's exactly what we do as AAIS. We are the liaison between the industry of insurance and regulators. And so we've been working with state regulators for the last 2 years, getting programs to kind of trust your regulator, and for the regulator to trust your insurance carrier that works in their jurisdiction. So please feel free to reach out or anything. It's a shameless plug, sorry.
Oh, cool. Thanks so much for that. All right, well, I'm sure we're all getting hungry, so I'll try to wrap this up. I do want to thank my staff, the Hyperledger staff. If all of you could stand up, and if you're not already standing, and raise your hand. No, I'm sorry, if all my staff could stand up, my staff. So Marta Piekarska, David Boswell, Rye Jones, Rye's over there, Daniela Barbosa, Karen O'Tony, Emily Fisher, and then from the Linux Foundation event staff, let's see, who's here? Shannon Jesse, I'm sure, is back there, Colleen Mickey, Celia Stamps, and more, I'm sure. And then did I forget anyone? Okay, good. I'm so nervous about forgetting names of my own staff. But thank you so much, because this team has worked like tirelessly for the last 3 months to make this happen. So, and beyond. And then finally, thanks to all of you for coming. And there are still 2 more days of workshops for those of you sticking around. Those are going to be pretty intense and fun, and I'll still be here. Really happy to engage with each of you. But some of you who are taking off tonight or tomorrow, thank you again, and let's go and party. Thanks.